Hey, this is Zach from Double Your Freelancing, and welcome to another issue of the podcast where I was like, what if we just made a podcast episode out of YouTube videos? So I have no idea what episode number this is. I have no idea if you're going to like it, but I hope you tell me if you do, and I hope you tell me if you don't. So in this episode, we are going to get into the big mistakes I see freelancers making with delegation. I had this on YouTube as 2 videos. It got a bit long, and I thought, this would make for a great podcast episode. So basically part 1 is going to be focused on the mistakes and how to do things differently and in a way that I think, at least for me, has been a lot better. And then the second part is going to be a bunch more examples to help generate ideas for you of things in your business that you should be delegating and aren't, as well as things that you've been trying and struggling to delegate that maybe you shouldn't be right now. So let's jump in. Sorry in advance if I say like and subscribe a lot, but you can subscribe to the podcast and you can like it in your sweet little heart. So let's dive in. This concept is really important because if you try to scale your freelance business, ultimately what you need is leverage. Whether you are wanting to grow an agency or just be a solo freelancer, and we do have a video linked to somewhere, we'll link to it, that compares all these. We even have 3 videos actually that compares freelancer versus agency. So check those out if you want more detail. But regardless of whether you go just freelancer or you go agency, in both routes, you need to get more leverage on your time if you want to earn more, get more freedom, flexibility, and just dollars in your pocket. So this is equally important regardless. But the actual way that you'll approach delegation will be a little bit different. And that leads us to today's video, which is the big mistake I see. So I notice when most freelancers try to delegate stuff, they do it what I would consider to be the wrong way, which is that they try to delegate the secret sauce. They try to delegate like the bulk of the project fulfillment, which is typically the hardest thing to delegate. And what I've found from experience is that the easiest, best stuff to delegate is the stuff that is, number 1, recurring. You have to do it on an ongoing basis. And then number 2, very importantly, done pretty much the same way every time. This second point here is why I was unable to scale my agency happily when I first tried to do it. Every project was different and I was trying to delegate fulfillment. So what it meant is that I couldn't really create SOPs for how to do a good job on the project because sometimes the SOP is like, all right, step 1, make a pretty design. Step 2, code up a good website. 2-step SOP. But each of those steps has such a high degree of variability that I couldn't actually quantify really detailed what goes into them, which meant that the quality of the work that a team member could do would also be variable. Now, in terms of, quote, what you do about this, it's going to be different depending on your targeted goals. If you're trying to grow an agency, the, quote, what to do about it is productization. You want to try to have the actual variability in the fulfillment of your service be smaller. You want to be able to deliver a project in pretty much the same way as you delivered another project. That gives you the ability to delegate better. But if you want to be a freelancer, you don't need to do that. You can keep all the projects different, keep them art, keep them secret sauce, keep them special, fun, novelty. And what you do instead is find other aspects of the process that have a smaller degree of variability. And this is the mistake that I see, is that people don't typically do this. The way that you can find these low variability parts of your process is, frankly, starting by tracking all of your time. If you know me, you know I'm a big fan of this. And it's basically the foundation of it is ultimately every client you've ever worked with has started as a lead, you've sold them into a client, and then you've fulfilled the project. By only focusing on delegating fulfillment, you're missing a lot of opportunities for time saving over here. You're also missing opportunities for time saving for things like project management, onboarding, offboarding, things that are a lot more prone to being done very similarly each time. Last year, I did an agency from scratch project where I started a new conversion rate optimization brand as a way to try out different marketing concepts and stuff to develop our DYF course, The Blueprint. And when I started it, I was expecting that it would be really, really hard to delegate fulfillment because I feel like the work I do there, it is secret sauce work. It blends my dev knowledge with my copywriting knowledge with my design knowledge. And I know from experience, it can be very tough to find people with all those skills overlapping. It's just not that common. Initially, I thought that the only way I'd really be able to remove myself from fulfillment and get more leverage that way would be by delegating that stuff, the actual implementation. But thanks to the fact that I track all of my time, I've come to find that a very sizable percentage of the time I actually spend working, quote, in this business comes down to things that are pretty standardized. Like a lot of my time, for example, comes down to polling metrics. I go find out how many views did the opt-in form get? How many views did the website get? How many opt-ins did we get? And copy and paste a bunch of numbers and find the formulas to see how everything actually went. And it's boring. It's boring because it's the same every time. I have ADHD and I've always struggled with doing, quote, boring work. But as I've grown more as a business person, I've started to maybe possibly see it as a little bit of a superpower, because I've found if work is boring, it's because it's the same every time for my specific brain. I get bored because it's no longer like a discovery process. It's just an execution process. I don't like executing. I like discovering. So I've come to see that feeling of boredom with my work as a sign, oh, maybe I could start delegating this. If something feels boring, it's probably delegatable because it means I'm simply executing a subconscious SOP that I haven't actually documented yet. And by tracking the time and seeing that like probably about 40%, I'd have to check Toggle, but probably about 40% of my time with my conversion rate optimization business is polling metrics or doing other data-driven stuff. And very little of my time is actual ideation. But the only thing that's really secret sauce is the ideation. It's the deciding what needs to be tested that really needs my overlap of skills. The actual implementation of the test and the polling of the reports to find out how the test went, that doesn't really need secret sauce. That's like a zoomed in specific skill. And I have a couple examples I'll share in a minute. But for now, I want you to take a moment, like maybe pause the video, take a moment and think, what's the secret sauce that I do? What's the high variability stuff that I do? But what's the stuff I do that I have to do on a recurring basis and it takes time? It takes several hours a week and it's done pretty much the same way every time or with a low level of variability. Does anything stick out to you? Anything that's the equivalent of Zach polling metrics where you have to do this task and it's like 5 hours a week, every freaking week. And gosh, it's such a pain. It's so boring because it's always the same and I totally should just have someone else do this for me. Anything stick out? I'll go into a couple examples. But before I do, one thing I want to note is that the time tracking is really, really, really important. I've found that there are certain things that I just really, really don't like. And I think they take a bunch of time because they feel like they take a bunch of time. But when I actually track my time, I find that they don't. So like checking the inbox, for example, I do not like checking the inbox. It's boring. I love checking your messages in the inbox, but everyone else, oh, so boring. But yeah, so I just don't really like it for my freelance business, for DIY. I don't like checking the inbox. I don't like social media. I don't like any of these things. I just want to make cool stuff. And so I feel like checking the inbox takes like 12 million hours a week. When I track my time, I often find that it only takes like 30 minutes. And so all this blanket advice that I hear from people I really respect in the time tracking space, like Dan Martell, for example, he runs stuff geared towards SaaS founders. And I really love his Buy Back Your Time book. And in it, he's a big advocate for how your first hire should be an executive assistant to manage your email and your calendar. Bad advice for a freelancer, because your email and your calendar probably doesn't take you a lot of time and probably is actually quite difficult to manage. And by trying to follow prescriptive advice like that, you're going to find that you're not actually saving time and it's a lot of hassle. But if you start with this holistic view where you're actually tracking and you're looking for low variability, you can like be hyper targeted about what things to delegate first. In the case of W Freelancing, the biggest thing, low-hanging fruit, was like video editing. I like making the videos. I like planning the videos. I don't like editing the videos, but it doesn't require Zach's secret sauce to edit the videos. It's just a pretty predictable, pretty consistently done thing. We create the structures to make it simple and boom, we can delegate it. So think about that with you. And then the examples that I have down to share with you are these. So I mentioned the metrics one. I won't get into that, but something that was interesting that I think might give you some ideas. So I said that I thought it would be really hard to delegate conversion rate optimization. But what I've found as I've been doing the work more and more is that the actual secret sauce work that I do, in air quotes, it's kind of, it's basically just a stack of different approaches. Because I've found that like, it's really not that secret of sauce. Most of what I do in the conversion rate optimization business is like, I have some theory about what'll work, and then I roll it out, and then I learn, oh, it didn't work. So I guess I'll try something else. And I just do that on repeat forever. And eventually shit works. And when you find a winner, you lean into it and then you iterate on that. And that's the whole business. And when I'm wrong 90% of the time, but I'm right 10% of the time, and that 10% makes big impact, it doesn't matter because that's all it's about. It's not about being right all the time. It's just about knowing when I'm right versus when I'm wrong. And what strikes me is like, I'm wrong 90% of the time. Am I really so special? Is that 90% like actually that much better than if I had a team member be wrong 90% of the time? I don't know. And it's kind of just helped me appreciate that if the objection to delegating to a team member is that they wouldn't be as right as you or do as good of a job as you, like, I'm already not right. And so I've been looking at like, what kinds of tests am I actually running when I'm doing the conversion rate optimization? What are the different types of things that I'm changing? And what type of person could handle that thing? So I said earlier that the reason it's hard to delegate this stuff is because it's like this Venn diagram overlap of copywriting, design, development. And in general, most people only have one type of thing. Usually someone's either a developer or a designer or a copywriter. And I know from experience how hard it is to like try to find someone who's all of them. But here's an interesting thing. And this is where I think you might get ideas. What I found is that usually a test I roll out, like if I'm going from the Zach Unicorn approach, maybe I blend all those skill sets. But I've been doing some experiments to see, what if we had a given test just lean into one of those skill sets? So for example, I recently did an A/B test where, so I do top of funnel conversion rate optimization, which is like if someone has a website and you have one of those pop-up opt-in forms, I change the form and see how many people opt in with this form versus that form. That's like my whole job. I tried one test where the only thing I changed was the 3D image of the thing you're signing up for. So like, for example, we have a free course called Charge What You're Worth that helps you create a really valuable offer so that you can close more deals and get paid more, which is at dyf.link/offer. Pretty meta what I just did there, yeah? So when you go to our website, we've got that pop-up opt-in form and we show like a 3D image of what this thing is that you're signing up for. But it's a 9-day email course, so it's not like I'm going to show an image of Gmail or something. So usually what it would be is like some sort of cover that we might design in Canva and then smack on an iPad. What I did as a test is said, okay, well, what if that cover smacked on an iPad? And then what if it's smacked on like a 3D notebook binder? Or what if it's on a binder that's in someone's hand? How would these things affect it? So I ran a whole test where all I did was changed the 3D render. I ran a different test where all I changed was the 2D part. So the same 3D render, but with a different 2D cover. I did a different test where I said, okay, well, let's pretend we didn't do any of that. And we just did like human image generation with Midjourney or with Dolly from ChatGPT. Ran a test with that. Did a different test where all we changed is headlines. And what's kind of cool is that when you approach it this way, suddenly you see that each of these tests, maybe Zach conceptualizes it. Maybe Zach's the one to say, you know, I think we should do an iPad for one, and I think we should do a binder for another, and I think we should do a blah, 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 blah. But that conceptualization, which I would say is the secret sauce part, doesn't really take a long time. It takes like maybe, I don't know, 20 minutes. But the designing of the images takes me several hours. But I don't need to design the images. We just created this sales page for the W Rates Toolkit, which is at wfreelancing.com/rates-toolkit, I think. If you're on there, you'll see we have all these like 3D images. Mari, the video editor, designer, keyword person, all sorts of things person, she was the one who designed those. And it struck me while having her do those, you know, Mari could totally do this for the CRO stuff. And that's what I want you to think about is like, if you break down your secret sauce, you know, most secret sauce is made of like ketchup and mayo and paprika. Most secret sauce is not so crazy. And I think probably one of my favorite takeaways from Mike Michalowicz's Clockwork book, Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time book, all of the things that talk about delegation, like the big takeaway is you're not actually that special. You just haven't taken the time yet to think about what your Venn diagram of secret sauce is. And if you do, and you can separate the circles and you can find a way to have the circles be done in isolation without requiring all the other circles, then you're golden because you can use your secret sauce where it matters most and have people on your team or automation or leverage help take care of these things in the way that doesn't require all those skills. And the more that you can have yourself only doing your secret sauce and having cheaper things doing the stuff that doesn't require all your skills, the more you'll be able to earn. Because at the end of the day, if you have all this secret sauce, but you're still doing low-level tasks, Like, let's say that in a given 6-hour workday, you spend 1 hour on the super secret sauce stuff that only you can do. You spend 4 hours on stuff that you might have to pay someone like, I don't know, $30 to $60 an hour to delegate to. And you spend an hour on like copy paste tasks that you could probably have like a $3 an hour VA do. That means you're spending 15% or whatever 1/6 is. Is it 16.67%? I don't remember. You're spending however much of your time on something that is not that valuable, on something that no one would ever want to pay you $500 an hour to copy and paste stuff, right? But if your total time is comprised of 15% of all of it going to that kind of stuff, it means that that stuff is like dragging down the thing as a whole. Because if you imagine that like the amount of money you take home is the value per hour of each discrete task you do, then you'll see, oh my gosh, if I were doing this all the time, this little secret sauce thing all the time, I could make so much money because I could deliver so much value. And we get more into this in the Charge What You're Worth course as we're talking about the concept of value for freelancers. But it just kind of really helps to, at least for me, helps me appreciate like where should I be spending my time and where should I not be. So to wrap all this up, the best action step here in my mind is to get good at tracking all your time. I really like the process I learned from Dan Martell in Buy Back Your Time for doing this. I have some posts on the site. I need to update it, but I go into my process, which is kind of a permutation of his. If you're in DYF University, I lay it all out in the Time Mastery course. We don't currently sell it standalone because I know that no one wants to buy a time tracking course. But if you're in there and you're getting value out of all the other stuff, take that one because it's my favorite course that I know nobody ever will want to buy. If you're not in university, it's basically the unlimited all access pass to all of our courses we've ever made and will ever make. You can learn more at dyf.link/university. But yeah, for now, track your time and be asking yourself, like, what's the recurring stuff that takes time every week that I should not be doing? What's the stuff that's pulling down my effective hourly rate because it's not delivering value for my clients? It's just a task that needs to get done. And look at ways that you can like reduce the variability, delegate it, quantify it, SOPify it, etc. And if you haven't taken the free Charge What You're Worth course yet, that'll help you get more of an idea of value and basically show you how you can create an offer that'll help you get more leads, more sales, and earn more per hour. And you can join that for free at dyf.link for, oh gosh, this little Apple thumbs up. Anyway, stupid Apple thumbs up. CTA, yeah. dyf.link/offer. That's where the Charge What You're Worth course is. And yeah, a bit of a rocky ending for the words coming out of my mouth, but rolling with it. So hopefully you found that helpful. I would love if you could tell me if you did, because I struggle with these podcast episodes to know what you like, what you don't like. I honestly have no idea if people generally prefer interviews, solo episodes, coaching episodes. I have no freaking clue. So if you could shoot me an email, I would love it so much. hello@wfreelancing.com. Or I guess you could like comment on this episode. I don't know if I'll see it if you comment on it. So if you really want me to see it, shoot me an email. I know it's kind of a pain in the ass, but if I don't know what people want, I'm just going to put out whatever's easiest. And if you hate whatever's easiest, then that kind of sucks for you. And the only way I can do better is if you tell me. So thanks for being here. See you in the next episode. And depending on what you say you like/don't like, that'll affect what the episode even is. So bye.